Okay, so we're going to go over how to print using the 4900 and the print dialog box that is available through the Epson driver. So I've got my image ready to go. I've put paper in my printer and I've checked my printer to make sure that it is working properly. I did a nozzle check and now I've placed my paper print side down in the paper cassette and we're ready to print. So we're going to go with File, Print. And this is going to bring up our print dialog box. So the first thing we want to check is that we have the correct printer selected. Since this printer is attached locally to this computer, it doesn't have any kind of network address. But if I were to choose a different one, I'd want to make sure I choose the correct printer. Next thing we're going to do is check our print settings. So in the print setting dialog box, we're going to choose our paper size. The 4900 defaults to roll paper, so we want to make sure we've chosen sheet paper. So in this case, we have US letter, sheet paper. You can also choose sheet maximum if you want to expand the availability of the printable area. But either one, make sure you've chosen sheet paper if that's what you've put in your printer. Next, we're going to drop the layout drop down and go to print settings. So this is where we're going to choose what type of paper we're using, as well as where is the paper coming from. So at this point we have page setup, sheet maximum. You want to make sure that says sheet, especially if you're using sheet paper. If you're using roll paper, make sure it says roll. Paper cassette is where we're choosing to feed our paper from. So we've already loaded the paper face down into the paper cassette. Next is our media type. So here's where we're choosing which paper and paper surface we're using. So we have a bunch of different options over here. Between paper surface as well as paper weight. I am using a premium glossy photo paper, so I'm going to choose that. At this point, my ink type should default to photo black, or if I was using something like a matte paper, it should default to matte black. Whatever the ink type you have set here should match the ink type that your printer is already set to. In this case, our printer is set to photo black. So with using glossy paper, we should be fine. Print mode and color mode, those are chosen. They're grayed out, so we don't need to worry about them. Output resolution is how much ink is put down on the paper. In our case, with glossy paper, we want to stick with 1440. With matte paper, we may choose to use 720. These are default checks. You don't need to worry about them. You can leave them checked. So at this point we're going to hit save, and that error message came up because we have not chosen Photoshop Manages Colors yet. I want to choose Photoshop Manages Colors because this allows me to choose my paper profile. So paper profile describes what paper I'm using, characterizes that paper and printer combination so I can get accurate color results. With Epson papers, you're going to choose the paper profile that matches the paper that you're printing with. In this case, I am using that photo glossy paper. Let me find it. Should be this one. All right, so we're going to go with that one. Now, a couple more things to check here. We've noticed that our print is not fitting on our page, so we can rotate the orientation between portrait and landscape of our page. And since in this case our printer is larger, our print image is larger than our printable area, I can choose Scale to Fit Media to make my image smaller to fit on my printable page. I don't want to scale media to make images larger, but to make them smaller is okay. I want to make sure black point compensation is checked. That will allow for our black points to be the same between image and print. And then we can notice down here I have some other options for soft proofing. So if I choose match print color, it's going to give me a soft proof preview of what my image might look on this particular paper. At this point, I've checked my printer, I've checked my printer settings, I have my paper orientation correctly orientated, I have chosen Photoshop Manages Colors, I've chosen the correct ICC printer profile. There we go. For our, looks much better, for our paper that we are choosing to print with, black point compensation is checked, and I've made sure to scale to fit media. At this point, I'm ready to print. I'm going to hit print, and I'm going to wait for this to send. My print dialog box should pop up here, down at the bottom, and I can open it here. If there are any errors, this is where it would show up, and I can then address whatever errors are occurring.